Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. This is the best professional wrestling podcast from pillar to post, Petree's Pit. And of course, I'm your host, Ray Petree, joined once again by my co-host, my tag team partner, the Arn Anderson to my Tully Blanchard, JDO. Talk to him, Jordan.
What's going on, man? What's going on, everybody? Got a late night edition of the show tonight.
We just finished watching Saturday's night main event. Saturday night's main event. There we go. The second installment of the revived version of this show. I watched it on Peacock, as did Jordan. Usually watch these things together tonight. Time constraints, we couldn't. So we're coming at you as close to after the show as we could get. And we don't usually record at night. Usually it's in the morning. So, I'm interested to see how much energy we have. Maybe it'll be too much, but that's okay. Before we get into the episode, please subscribe to the channel, like this video, and leave us a comment about what you thought about the show or anything we talk about. If you have questions you'd like us to answer in the future, feel free to ask them in the comments. We'd be happy to bring them up on next week's episode. I'd like to start doing a mailbag of sorts at the end of these videos, just to kind of interact with you guys and generate some discussion that we're not thinking of on our own. So keep that in mind. If you have any questions, let us know about AEW, WWE, anything wrestling related, or to the Miami Heat. Jordan's basketball team sinking right now. Jimmy Butler not cooperating with the team. Um, anyways, that aside, Jordan, Saturday night's main event two, the second installment of this show. Um, we didn't really get to talk much about the first one when it happened. We didn't get into granular detail, anyways. How do you feel about the presentation of this show?
I like the presentation. I like that old school feel of it. And you know, it I like that it's not they're making it a big deal, but they're not making it like, oh, this is a big pay-per-view PLE type of thing. It's a special edition show. Um, Sort of like how like AEW has their shows that they have those special edition shows, although they do them pretty frequently. This is something pretty new that WWE's doing. But I like it. It gives it a different feel. It gives it kind of like a souped up regular TV show as opposed to like a PLE. So I like the presentation of it.
Yeah, I love the ring ropes. I love the uniform of the referees. I love how the microphones drop from the ceiling. Now, they look vintage and the logo and the banner across the barricade. I love so much of this and how it's presented. It's nostalgic, even though we didn't grow up in the 80s. We are a little bit younger than that. It's a reminder of when wrestling was simpler, and sometimes that's a good thing. The show opens, they called it the Okerland position. Jesse the Body Ventura and Joe Tessitore, um, kind of giving a preamble to the show. Jesse Ventura's contributions to this show, I think, really kind of elevated a little bit. Him not being in the WWE for so long, not being involved with the company. It's really nice to see him back, um, lending his insight and his unique commentary to the show. What do you think about Ventura?
I mean, it's definitely been a nice change at commentary. Uh, I think the commentary team for WWE, obviously are pretty good, but I think when you add a different element like Ventura, who can really give you that real heel commentator um, type of spin on things, I think it really adds to the show a lot. And he points out things that a lot of times the commentators don't point out, which is refreshing. And obviously, I mean, he did it for so long; he's got that experience, so it definitely gives it a different feel.
Started the show by calling out the governor of Texas, um, for the lack of preparation for the snow. He made a comment about Sheamus that he needs to win the IC championship to become a Hall of Famer, which I found interesting. Did you hear that? He was like, he needs to win the IC championship to secure his place in the Hall of Fame. And I'm like, Snoop Dogg's in the Hall of Fame,
Yeah,
Jesse. I know a lot's changed. You probably don't really care. Pretty easy to get in this Hall of Fame.
yeah,
Um,
I don't understand where the where that came from. But yeah, he's pretty high on Sheamus tonight, so I
Yeah,
guess he's
yeah.
I guess he's a big Sheamus fan. So,
He definitely seemed like a big Sheamus fan. How can you not be? Sheamus,
yeah,
yeah, he's a little strange looking.
come
Yeah,
on, man.
all of his matches they seem the same at times, but he's so fun to watch. He seems like such a great person. Um, but he took an L tonight. I mean, we can go back to the opening match, but that's a great segue.
Yeah,
Sheamus versus Braun Breaker for the IC title. Jesse the Body Ventura seemed to think this match was opening the show because he kind of, segued it into that, and it
yeah,
wasn't. But
yeah.
match for the Intercontinental Championship. Sheamus still feverishly trying to win this title. I mean, really wants to complete that Grand Slam gauntlet. Just didn't get it done. Braun Breaker, EAT, effort, attitude, toughness. He beat Sheamus's ass. What'd you think about this match, Jordan?
It was a great match. I really enjoyed it. It was very hard hitting, which a lot of times these Sheamus matches are. And then you have somebody like Braun Breaker, who's an animal. Just physically is dominant. And there were some great spots in this match. That mid-air spear that Breaker hit was crazy. Um, and I'm happy that Braun Breaker won. I think he really needs to keep getting these wins. I'd like for him to have a decently long title reign. But they are kind of building this up to where kind of like they did with Jey Uso in a different way. It's like keeps losing in these matches, and it's like, is he ever going to be able to win this title? And it feels like down the line he's going to do it. Um, Maybe it's against Braun Breaker, maybe it's against somebody else, but it seems like they're really positioning him to win that title and complete that Grand Slam. Michael Cole even making a point to mention how one day he will win the title, but not tonight. Uh, and yeah, I thought it was a great match. Really for me, the most important thing that they need to do now is keep the momentum going for Braun Breaker. Uh, I feel like a lot of times, especially in Triple H's WWE, some of these champions they can kind of hit kind of a lull. They don't really do anything. They are just kind of there, and I think we both are really high on Braun Breaker. A lot of other people are high on Braun Breaker. He's got future world champion written all over him. And I think he needs to keep racking up these wins and keep building his profile. And beating somebody like Sheamus, is no small feat. He's a former world champion, and as we just said, he's one title away from a Grand Slam champion. So, it was a great match. I'm happy about the results, and it also it adds a little sympathy to Sheamus. Like, oh, he lost again for the IC title, but one day he will get there. So, all in all, I think it was well done.
Yeah, I mean, Sheamus, listen, there's a lot. The WWE has more star power right now than it's had in a long time. And I think that's typified by guys like John Cena, who's, obviously in his case, it's the end of the year, but CM Punk, his time is finite in this company. Sheamus down the road will have that Intercontinental Championship moment, and it's going to be special. But you know, we don't need it to happen this year. And for Braun, this was an opportunity for him to have a smash mouth, physical, violent match with a guy who can not only take it but deliver it in equal force. Sheamus is so great at having matches like this, and they complement each other really well. I think for Breaker, you're right. I mean, he has boundless potential. This guy, I mean, Sheamus wasn't the only former world champion that lost tonight, but in terms of, making a statement, Braun Breaker, I mean, uh, he's phenomenal in the ring, and it's just, you know, I just hope he can continue having matches like this, but also I hope he can have a marquee feud with someone and really elevate not only the title, but himself. Like we haven't seen him have that in the main roster anyways. He hasn't had that high profile feud with the real heel, you know what I mean? Um, and I think as someone like him who has a unique connection with the audience because he's so charismatic in his own way, I think that could really help elevate him and take him to the next level as a performer. And I think, WrestleMania season is a perfect time for that to happen. Let's go back. Women's World Championship match. Rhea Ripley, Nia Jax. Nia Jax, very abruptly lost that WWE Women's Championship to Tiffany Stratton, who cashed in, jumped over to Raw, started this feud with Rhea Ripley. Um, I mean, I tell you what, this was a heck of a match. Rhea Ripley showing out, and Nia Jax continuing to demonstrate her improvement as a performer, her ring psychology, the way she works. It complemented Rhea well. What did you think?
Oh, I thought it was great. Obviously, big Rhea Ripley fan, and I've said a few times that I'm not the biggest Nia Jax fan, but I will say this was a really good match for both of them. Obviously, you and I have talked about the need for Rhea Ripley to really improve her in-ring, ability. Obviously, people make a big deal about how well she sells, and she does, but as far as her being the champion and her being the marquee name in a match, you want her to be you know, one of the best ones in the ring, and this was definitely great. Uh, you're somewhat limited when you have somebody like Nia Jax her size that the things that she can do, and I think it was good for Rhea because she's been working with Liv for so long, and she was the dominant, woman in those matches, and now she's going against somebody who's way bigger than her. But I think it was really good, and it was something that I think Rhea needed to do because obviously she's the face of the women's division in the WWE for now and for probably many years to come. So you want to see her improve and get better in the ring so that when she does face opponents who are not Charlotte Flair or a Bianca Belair or somebody like that who's a really good worker in the ring, you want her to be able to uh, elevate her opponents, and I think tonight she really did that.
Yeah, that code red, really stuck out to me. The diving crossbody to the floor really shocked me. I mean, she's applying real babyface maneuvers to her arsenal to just to bring out to demonstrate another side of her that we haven't seen, like you said, because she's been facing Liv Morgan. Typically in those confrontations, she's more of a power player. Then she also, the power bomb from Nia off the top rope. She really demonstrated not only her power, but her dexterity and agility and her, deft touch, and that there's more levels to her game than we, usually get to see. I agree with you. This is a very good match. I mean, easily like a 3.5 star kind of match. And a great use of Nia Jax, who, yeah, I understand you could say, why isn't she immediately feuding with Tiffany Stratton? But moved right over to Raw, seamlessly began this feud, and I think it's done well, and the payoff here at Saturday night's main event was good. Um, it's hard to believe the month has gone by so quick. The Royal Rumble is next week. Um, so very quickly we'll know who will probably be facing Rhea Ripley for that title at WrestleMania, and if not, then it definitely narrows it down. So, um, you know. For her, this is a great way to really begin WrestleMania season. I mean, obviously winning the title at Raw's debut on Netflix was great, but now she is on that path to where she's going to be in the main event, not the main event probably, but we'll talk about it at another time. But she
Yeah.
will be in a marquee match against probably the winner of the Rumble. So, um, moving on, Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens contract signing. The Cody sucks egg shirt in reference to Terry Funk's shirt of Dusty sucks eggs was great. Kevin Owens, it's obviously he's the heel and we know that, he's done Cody wrong, but it's really hard to not like this guy.
Yeah, I mean, honestly though, if you listen to the crowds when he comes out, I mean, he gets a lot of heat, which in wrestling today is really, really hard to get because so many times the bad guys are cheered. Um, as we'll get to in a later match. But yeah, Kevin Owens is really good. He's really entertaining. he's doing some different things, and in the promos that he's cut, you really kind of think about it, you're like, man, he really has a point in some of
Yeah.
the things he says about Cody and about other guys. And yeah, it's been a really entertaining feud. And I think it's been one of the best non-Roman feuds Cody's had, since becoming the champion. I mean, it's got a lot of layers to it. There's been a clear babyface heel dynamic for the most part. Um, and yeah, it's been really entertaining, and we're going to get a ladder match out of it at the Royal Rumble. So, it'll be really good. And it's tonight. It was no different. Very entertaining for obviously a short segment as it was. But yeah, it's been great. KO has been really really good.
The Canadian Dream with the Winged Eagle Championship around his shoulder. The match is, a quasi unification match. Obviously his title's Fugazi, but I kind of hope Cody leaves with the Winged Eagle and comes back with it and just drops that gold W belt off because it looks, I mean, yeah, maybe it looks like a replica, but it's a beautiful replica. And Yeah, you're right. This not only was this a great segment, but this has probably been Cody's best feud since winning the title outside of Roman. Um, there's layers to it, like you said. And to your point, you're right. The crowd is booing Kevin Owens. Now, how much of that is a credit to Cody? I don't know. I mean, Cody's definitely one hell of a babyface, and that would accentuate any heel. But Kevin Owens doing a great job. Doing great heel work, cutting great heel promos. Not many guys can switch back and forth quite like he can. I mean, he can be a really over babyface. He can be a really over heel. It's just the magic of Kevin Owens and why he's so special. But Shaw, I knew Shawn Michaels was going to give him the sweet chin music before the segment ended. It had to happen.
Yeah.
But I gotta
What
admit, it,
else?
it kind of looked like shit.
I mean, goddamn, I mean, how old is he now? I mean,
Got to be 60 at
yeah, I
least.
mean, he's really old. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew when he was involved in this contract signing, he was gonna obviously switch in music. KO. That was obviously going to happen. They're in, San Antonio, so yeah, it was going to happen, and it was a cool little moment for him to do it. But yeah, I mean, it wasn't the greatest sweet chin music ever, but like we said, I mean, he's old, hadn't done it in a while, so the fact that he could still even do it to where it looks decent enough was pretty impressive.
I was really hoping he was going to get KO was going to give him the stunner. I mean, I know for the package pile driver, but I was really hoping he was going to go for a stunner. That'd have been awesome. But and it probably would have worked instead of the package pile driver. But
Yeah,
speaking of old people, some people in the stands, some legends in the stands. Medusa wearing a title, like
yeah.
is it the one? Not the one she threw away, right? Or is it? Or is it an older version of that title?
Uh, yeah, I'm trying to remember. I don't even think I really paid attention to the one she was holding.
Because in
Um,
the clip that introduced her was her throwing the title away on WCW Nitro.
Yeah, that was a pretty wild clip to show
Yeah.
of her throwing the belt away. That was a pretty controversial moment for her.
Uh
But
yeah,
yeah, I
I don't
mean, yeah, I'm not sure which title it was, but yeah, it was definitely an interesting way to introduce her. Although I guess that is kind of her most infamous moment, where a lot of people recognize her. So
she was so good in the ring though. You could I mean
yeah,
people talk about Trish and Lita. She was way better in the ring than they were. Way, way better. You could have easily shown her like wrestling. That'd been cool, but
mm,
yeah, Medusa, Mark Henry, Ted DiBiase, very interesting choice that you would give him the time of day. I mean, all the bad publicity and the legitimately terrible things he's done, stealing welfare money.
yeah. Didn't he get found guilty of that?
Yeah, like there. Yeah, I mean,
Him and his son.
yeah, his son might if his son is not already, his son is going to do time for it. Like,
Yeah,
um,
yeah. I don't understand why WWE they have to know these things are going on, and they know that people can. find this stuff out if they don't already know it. So like the fact that you bring Hulk Hogan in and you bring Ted DiBiase, like when I saw him get out of the car, I'm like, why the hell would you have him on this? Like I get the historical relevance, but I mean these are legitimately bad people who
Yeah,
have
yeah,
done bad things. Like and I mean when I was listening to him, it sounded like he got booed a little bit. So
yeah.
it wasn't as like audible as Hulk Hogan, obviously, but the fact that you would even bring somebody back, it's just like, come on, man. Like, y'all gotta be smarter than that.
Yeah, he didn't get booed out of the building like Hogan did. It seemed mixed, but it was very brief. He was on screen. Juxtaposing Ted DiBiase was Dory Funk Jr., who I'd like to remind everyone wrestled last year
Yeah.
in an exploding barbed wire death match. And then you see him on TV and it's like, that looks like my great grandfather. What home did you find him in and bring him to this show? Um, And then lastly, Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. That popped me. I was happy to see the Brainbusters,
Yeah.
uh, one of my all-time favorite tag teams.
Yeah.
That was cool. But
What do you think about this whole thing of them at these different shows showing all these like legends? Like it's kind of been a recurring thing now.
I think that's a loaded question. I think it's good in a way that you're honoring the people that paved the trail. Um, on another hand, play devil's advocate. I liked it Raw's debut on Netflix when they were showing the current wrestlers ringside, because that's shedding light on people who are actually busting their ass to make this show matter. Um, like I don't know. I mean, it's cool. It for older fans. I mean, this show is definitely
Yeah.
trying to hit that nostalgic chord. So it's cool to see people who have been on the show in the past, have been featured on it. What do you think?
I think I think it's good on this type of show to show legends because that's what this is. It's honoring the older, wrestling demographic
Yeah,
with all of the old references, with obviously what you said before with the referees, the ring, the mic, the microphones coming down. So a show like this is where I would want you to have legends come up and get a moment. But if you're going to show people on Raw or SmackDown, anything like that, I would rather you, like you said, have the current wrestlers.
yeah.
That way, they're getting the TV time on the main shows because they're the ones who are going to be obviously on these shows, wrestling and doing different things. So and I think if you can find a balance, I think that would be the best way to do this. If this is something you're going to continue to do,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you're right. On a program like this, totally makes sense. Maybe if you're at a pay-per-view and you're talking about guys who really had special moments at that pay-per-view, okay, or in a city, okay, but I don't know. I mean, it is a little weird. I mean, like you're totally detouring what's going on to show people ringside who are not going to be there for more than one match. It's a little odd. Moving on, we have Jacob Fatu versus Braun Strowman. Now, I like Braun Strowman probably more than most people do. I enjoyed Braun when he was kind of on top. He's a really, I mean, you can't deny the guy cares about how he looks, his presentation. He's constantly jacked to the nines. He's gigantic. He's got an interesting combination of size and physique that most big guys don't have, quite frankly. Um, but yeah, I love Jacob Fatu. I've loved him since he was in MLW. I'm not a diehard MLW fan. I don't watch all of their shows, but tell you what, if he had a match that looked interesting, I would tune in for it. That's the kind of power he had for me on that show. And when he was in MLW, I wanted him to go to the WWE because I knew he would fit right into this bloodline story. I mean, it was tailor made for a guy like him. And post Survivor Series, he's really taken the reins on SmackDown for the former Bloodline. Um, Not Survivor Series, Raw's debut on Netflix. I'm sorry, when Roman beat Solo, he's really taken the reins for the Bloodline on SmackDown and ran with it. His promo before this match, I'd like to recite it real quick. You're a tough SOB, but keep it 100. You've never been in the ring with nobody like me. Hell, I'm America's most hell, you know what time it is. You better get in where you fit in, because tonight I'm about to beat your ass from post to post, live on NBC from coast to coast. Bill Shakespeare, 10 out of 10 promo. I mean, we're talking maybe promo of the year. He did that walking in to the damn arena to beat Braun Strowman's ass. And I don't, to beat his ass. He's, they should have tranquilized him like the Big Show because he was battering him like Braun Strowman was blind and crippled. This is a former Universal Champion, and Jacob Fatu just squashed him on Saturday night's main event. Well, I mean, Jordan, please speak on this. This is
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah, I mean it obviously from the first moment that Jacob Fatu showed up in WWE, he has been presented like a freaking animal. You know, they call him the Samoan werewolf, and he acts like it. And tonight, was just, I mean, he beat Braun Strowman like he owed him money, man. I mean, it was just crazy. And I was interested in this match because obviously they've really protected Fatu and really kept him from, getting beaten up a whole lot. Uh, so I was interested to see how in this match he was going to look against a guy like Braun Strowman, and man, they made him look like $1 million. I mean, he just, Braun Strowman got a couple shots in, but for the most part, I mean, Fatu looked like an animal, and obviously since Solo lost to Roman, Jacob Fatu's really been the main guy in the new Bloodline group, and he's looked great. And I mean, yeah, his promo skills are really really good, like better than I thought they were.
Yeah.
Especially since he's really been talking a lot more since Solo's kind of out of the picture. Um, and yeah, it was just great, man. I mean, what a future that Jacob Fatu has if they keep things on course the way they are. I mean, he's gonna be up there for sure.
I think he's in his mid 30s or early to mid 30s. Certainly not in the back half of the 30s. There's a level of authenticity he has when he speaks. There was that moment where the ref was like, "You need to get in the ring, or I'm gonna start counting you out." And as a wrestling fan, you're conditioned to think, "Well, why aren't you just counting?" But then you think, "Well, if I were the referee, I wouldn't want to count him out because he probably beat my ass." And I could believe that he would really beat my ass. And that's when it hit me really that like even as a wrestling fan who knows it's fake, I think, man, that guy's tough. That's a tough guy. And that's really hard. I know that sounds cliche, but that's a really hard thing to accomplish. Um, he's like Umaga meets Vader meets, I don't know. I mean, he's so unique. His skill set is so insane, and he does everything with so much realism and delivers it with intent. Yeah, you're right. He beat Braun Strowman up like he owed him money. Um, like I said, like when they tranquilized the Big Show, they should have brought out the guns and shot him. And I wrote that down in my notes, and then like a minute later, Michael Cole and Pat McAfee said the same thing. Like, Nick Aldis was a fucking NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Put a headlock on him or something. You're just sitting here watching him beat Braun Strowman's ass.
Yeah,
Like, you are a world champion. Get your ass in that ring and stop him, man.
yeah,
What a moment. What a
yeah,
segment. I wouldn't even really call it a match because it was just so one-sided.
yeah. And like the funny thing is that the whole time the crowd is like cheering on Jacob Fatu. Like they're wanting him to just beat Braun Strowman more. And like he's supposed to be a bad guy, but it's like we said, he's so good at this and he's so unique. The crowd just loves him. Um, so I mean, that kind of goes back to the point of a bad guy. Like, you get to this point where these guys, where the fans just they love these just badass guys who are like, I'm just gonna come in the ring and I'm gonna kick your ass, and there's nothing you can do about it. And I think the fans really, really like him. So it'll be interesting to see how they flirt that line because it's kind of a little bit the same thing with Braun Breaker. Like he's so good, he's so physical that the crowd loves him, and you know he's obviously kind of flirted the line back and forth between a good guy and a bad guy. So it'll be interesting to see how they do that with Jacob Fatu going forward. Um, but I think the fact that you could do that and just absolutely destroy Braun Strowman, and the crowd is chanting your name the entire time and asking like saying for you to hit him with another moonsault. Like it's crazy. It was crazy. It was absolutely crazy. And like I said, it made Jacob Fatu look like $1 million. And that's where I think he's heading, where he's going to be one of those main guys in the near future.
When Solo comes back, I don't know how I don't know how you slot Solo back over Jacob Fatu at that point. I think pardon me, like a few months ago we were all thinking, well, by WrestleMania Solo will be in that US title picture. We've talked about it on the show. At this point, I'm kind of thinking Jacob Fatu wins that title at Mania from Shinsuke Nakamura as a babyface, as someone who's established this really unique connection with the audience. Yeah, you're right. I mean, Michael Cole saying on commentary, "Oh, his ribs are broken. He's bleeding out. He probably has internal bleeding." In the crowds, one more. It's
Yeah.
like just a yeah, hell of a way to end that match. And Braun Strowman, man, I don't know what he did. I don't know what he did to Triple H, but that man just keeps getting his ass beat. And yeah, he might get a win to start, but at the end of every feud, he's getting his ass beat by anyone he puts his hands on. Um, and but finally, I guess it made sense. Jacob Fatu is an animal, but main event. And speaking of main events, we have main event Jey Uso facing the Ring General Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship. Um, I tell you what, when this going into this, I didn't expect for any titles to change. I thought that, we're nothing's going to happen on this show. And during the course of this match, I almost started to believe that Jey Uso was winning this title. His ability, I mean, he's achieved a level that very few baby faces have ever achieved in this incredible connection he has with the audience. His ability to make a comeback, to make it look believable, to accumulate offense is I mean, we're talking Ricky Morton, Ricky Steamboat, we're talking Rey Mysterio. Like in my mind, this match is proof he is up there in that he's mastered the art of the babyface comeback. Fortunately, it wasn't enough. Gunter is not a wrestler you beat, you have to slay him, and Jey Uso just could not get the job done. What did you think about this match, Jordan?
I I also did not expect any titles to change hands. Um, and like I felt the same way. This was one where as I was watching the match, I was like, man, they are really kind of teeing this up to where Jake could knock him off. And especially they with the way they've kind of made Gunther look a little bit weak. Uh, as you know, during this world title reign, it's not been that impressive. Um, he's had some moments, but definitely not anywhere near his Intercontinental title run. Um, and it made me think, well, I mean, main event Jey Uso, I mean, he is just one of the hottest wrestlers in the company right now. I mean, the crowd reactions he gets, the merch he sells, he's constantly in these big title matches, and I know, you and I talked about before about people we thought could be a champion in, however many years. I mean, Jay is really seeming like at some point he's going to win the world title.
Hmm.
You really wouldn't think it. You'd think, oh, he's just, he's like a mid card type of guy. But I mean, he's everything you want in a big time wrestler. I mean, he's got that connection with the crowd. He has that Jeff Hardy aura about him, where the crowd is just they love him so much. And eventually it gets to the point where it's like, how long can you deny him a world title run? And it is one of the craziest things. You think about him being a tag team wrestler with the Usos, and never in a million years would I have thought he would become what he has now, where he has become one of the main singles wrestlers in the company. to where, he was on the promotional picture for Saturday Night's Main Event on Peacock.
Yeah.
He was the guy. And now he's got this crazy, his entrance coming through the crowd. The whole crowd is doing the yeet dance with him going down. He had a little kid with the yeet sunglasses on doing the thing. I mean, he's everything you want in a babyface champion, man. And I don't know how much longer they can deny him having a title. I mean, he had the IC title for what, about a month, and
Yeah.
then lost it to Braun Breaker. Um, but yeah, I mean, I don't see how you could just keep him away from the title picture when he's this over.
Yeah, I mean it makes me, there have been times in the past where you kind of say with him, if not now, then when? If he's this hot and you don't put the strap on him now, then how can he recapture that? And then he does. He's one of those guys that somehow he can capture lightning in a bottle more than once. Uh, and if not 6 months, if by SummerSlam maybe he still has this kind of energy around him, he's still connecting with the audience like this. He has these kind of entrances, these kind of reactions during his comebacks. I think maybe by then you'd have to start considering it. Right now it's hard. I mean, on one hand, like maybe it'd be easier to have him hold the title and to go into WrestleMania season because someone can knock him off after that and take the title into Mania. Uh, that's kind of where my mind went when I was watching the match because I'm like, wow, he really might win this thing. But yeah, dude, he's as a babyface man. If it were not right now, where there are just so many guys in the company who are top, top, top legends, like 5 years ago, this is a lot like Kofi Mania. I think 5 years ago, 7 years ago, they'd have put the title on him. And unfortunately, there's just so many guys in this company right now who need to occupy that space because there's only so much air to breathe. And he's just not that guy right now. But in a few months, maybe so, next Mania, maybe so.
Yeah. And I also think that that's also a good point in his favor in that you have so many guys, so many main event caliber guys, and he's the one who is one of the hottest guys in the company right now. The fact that you have Cody, you have Punk, you have Gunther, you have John Cena here for this last run. Uh, you have Jacob Fatu, you have all of these main event caliber guys, and he's the guy who's constantly around these title matches. Uh, it makes me think that it's like you said, how long can where is the right time for him to win this? Like you said, 5 years ago, yeah, he probably would have won the title, or he might win. He might have been in line to win it at Mania.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's going to happen this year. But it would seem to me like him winning the title might be best suited for like that sort of that lower period right after Mania,
Yeah.
like at a Backlash or at a maybe at a SummerSlam. Maybe that's too big of a pay-per-view for him, but I feel like you have to do it at some point. Like to not capitalize on it, you know, not at Mania, okay, I get it, but later on down the line, I don't see how if like you said, if he's still this hot, if he's still got this much momentum, I don't see how you could possibly deny it.
Yeah, and I don't want to get too caught up in Jey Uso when we have, the champion, still the champion Gunther here, who, you know, listen, you got it. Gunther's malleability that yeah, he can have strong style matches with big guys like Sheamus or Drew McIntyre. He can wrestle guys like Damian Priest. But then he has this match against Jey Uso where he sells his ass off during Jay's comeback, makes it look legitimate, makes it look like he's really stunned, really damaged, really wearing down, and then to flip the switch, deliver those two power bombs. Yeah, you're right. For a lot of his championship reign, he hasn't looked as inviolable as he did when he was the IC champion or when he was the NXT UK champion. But this match was like, wow, that's a world champion because he survived all that and got right back up and finished the job like it was nothing. Um, And for Gunther, who has held this title for about half a year now, or I guess less than that, definitely less than that. SummerSlam's back half of the summer, so has held this title for about 100 and maybe 200 days.
175 days.
175?
Yeah, that's what they said on the show.
175. Thank you. So 175 days. A lot of people want to book this match at Mania where he loses it to CM Punk or John Cena or whoever else, right? A lot of people want to see someone go to Mania, and you don't want them to beat Cody, so they got to beat Gunther. I'm the biggest CM Punk fan you're going to find. If he wins the Rumble, I'll be happy. If he wins the Chamber, I'll be happy. I don't know if that means you put him over Gunther. I don't know if you put John Cena over Gunther because this is a guy that you have that could be your biggest heel in the company right now, but you can't let him lose. You have to let you have to give it a little bit more time, I feel like. What do you think?
I mean, obviously Gunther is one of the best in the business. He's they made a point to say that his combined amount of days as champion in the company, as far as the NXT UK champion, the IC champion, now the world champion, he's been a champion over 80% of his WWE career, which is just crazy to think about. I mean, he's been a champion all that time. And yeah, I mean this world title run, I don't know if it's by design or if it's kind of naturally happened, but he has not looked as good as he did while he was the Intercontinental Champion. Obviously he's retained the title against these different opponents, but yeah, I think it seems like it's kind of that old feeling of when you and I were watching WWE when we were kids, and the titles changed hands a lot more frequently than they do now.
Mhm.
And everybody loves a big title win. They're big moments. Obviously, like if Jey Uso had won the title tonight, it would have been a big moment. Um, and I think after Roman had his really long title reign and Gunther had his really long title reign, you know, it it really adds to those wins when they eventually lose them, provided they're done right.
Mhm.
Um, but I think it's a balance of like you have a long title reign, but it kind of makes the matches feel less important because you already know the person's not going to lose the title. So I think it's a delicate balance that you have to find, and I give Triple H credit for really trying to add prestige to these titles by having them have long title reigns and then having the eventual title change mean more. Um, and Cody obviously is somebody who everybody expects to go into Mania as a champion. So that would, leave Gunther as the one, oh, well, he's going to be the one who loses his title at WrestleMania. But like you said, I think that Gunther being able to hold the title a little while longer would be a good thing. Um, I don't know how him losing it at Mania, how that would affect him. I guess it would depend on what plans they had for him afterwards.
Mhm.
Uh, but yeah, it's hard to see Gunther him losing the title all of a sudden making him irrelevant. I don't really see that happening because he's such a big part of the company, one of the biggest heels, if not the biggest heel in the company right now. Um, so yeah, it's he's in a bit of a weird place where it's like he's the champion, but he's not the main champion. And there's a lot of guys who you could see winning the title, like CM Punk or like Jey Uso or somebody like that. Uh, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they navigate that. But I definitely think Gunther holding the title for a while longer would definitely benefit not only him but also this world championship because it's still new. It's
Mhm.
only been around for what 2 years at this point. I think it's been
Not even
yeah,
two.
not even 2 years. So I think it would benefit him and the title to be able to hold it a little longer.
Yeah, I mean, he's well, the fourth champion. Drew McIntyre's reign lasted a minute, 5 minutes maybe. Um, so he's the third champion. And while Damian Priest impressed me, I didn't think of him as a real world champion caliber guy. I still don't. Um, I think of Gunther like that, but that's the folly of being that secondary world champion, is that you're not going to get quite as much attention as the guy, that being Cody Rhodes, gets. Um, yeah, I mean, I think when you think of Gunter, you think of someone who is imposing, who is a wall that you have to climb, a dragon you have to slay. And during this reign, he's not quite looked like that. Maybe that's by design. Um, I don't know. I'm not really one to say. I mean, I don't think we'll really know exactly what the intent is until he gets into that last feud. But I hope going forward they continue to make him look like this. They let him look like someone who you just can't overcome. Um, and you accomplish that by having him beat someone at Mania for that title. If it's John Cena, if it's CM Punk, if it's Seth Rollins, if it's Drew McIntyre, I don't know. I don't really care. The point being is that you have someone kind of, you position it as, well, that's the title that's going to change, and it doesn't, because you can't beat Gunther. And but I don't know. We'll have to see. To be quite honest, I don't expect that to happen. I do think he's going to lose that title at Mania. To who, I don't know, but we'll find that out. Any other thoughts on Saturday night's main event? And what would you rate this show out of on a 5-star scale, uh, in its entirety?
Uh, I mean, I think the show was good. I liked it better than the first one. Um, I thought some more interesting things happened on this show. I think they kind of settled in a little bit, kind of figured out what was good from the first show, what wasn't. They added a few more interesting things on this show, and the matches were really good. As far as what I would rate it, I would probably rate it like a 3.5 type of match. It wasn't spectacular, it wasn't game changing, but it was a good show. Um, it was a good show that to bill it as like a special edition type of thing.
Yeah, I agree. I'd give it a 3.5. I think it was very good. The matches were very good. Um, I enjoyed the main event. I liked the women's match. I love seeing Fatu show out. And the IC match was great, which you expect that from Braun Breaker at this point. He's that good of a performer. And I love the presentation of Saturday night's main event. I think this is a really fun throwback, a really great way to end the relationship with NBC and Peacock. Um, and I love the nostalgia of it all. Like what I said, we didn't grow up in the '80s. Now I've watched plenty of Saturday night's main events retroactively, and I enjoy watching them. But it just is a reminder of a not a better time, but a simpler time for the WWE, and it's cool to see them pay homage to the people that paved the way. So we have some questions that were left on last week's episode on Reddit from some fans. I'm excited to get into. Like I said, if you have anything you'd like us to answer next week, please leave us a comment in the comment section. We would love to make this a weekly tradition. Answer some mailbag questions to end the show. It can be about AEW, WWE. I watch a little bit of everything. So CMLL, New Japan. Maybe Jordan might not be able to give his opinion on it or his insight, but I would be happy to. Joshi, Stardom, Marigold, I mean, really, you can run the gamut. I'm up for the challenge. But uh, our first question from Meiji How, I presume, is the username on Reddit. If you could buy stock in any NXT woman, who would you invest in? In other words, who amongst that huge crop of talent do you think will have the most success over the next 5 to 10 years? Jordan, I'm gonna let you take that one first, buddy.
Uh, I mean, I don't know. I feel like this is kind of an easy answer. I'd probably say Roxanne Perez. I mean, she's been a big deal on NXT. She, just recently lost the title to Julia. And it would seem like she's going to be brought to the main roster here soon. Uh, she's obviously, been featured quite a bit in different things. She wrestled different people. So I think she's probably the easy answer. out of everybody on the roster, I would definitely say Roxanne.
Um, so to just give a different answer, listen, I could easily say Stephanie McCool or Julia. They both are former women's world champions in different companies, and they will inevitably go to the main roster and succeed and flourish. So I won't say either of them either because that's easy. Um, I'm gonna go a little deeper, and I'm gonna go with Lola Vice, who has an MMA background. She has a lot of room for improvement in terms of her wrestling psychology and her just her general in-ring work. But she's a strong foundation in combat sports. Some of her stuff looks really good. And with time, she will definitely improve. I think she's going to be a big star on the main roster when she gets there. But the good thing about NXT is, she's 26 years old. There's a lot of time for her to stay in that promotion, maybe win a title, NXT World Championship or women's, not the World Championship, NXT Women's Championship. And, whether it's as a babyface or a heel to continue growing, she's got a lot of time. She's probably 4 or 5 years away from entering her prime. So that would be my pick. Um, Next question from the Honk Master. What are your thoughts on Commander Aziz? Um, this is an interesting one. So I know he debuted on MLW's One Shot, the Eric Bischoff episode, as Baba Thunder. He wrestled Mads Kruger and lost, and then joined Contra Unit. Contra Unit, for those who don't watch MLW, is the faction that was formerly ran by Jacob Fatu. Um, and I didn't watch the most recent MLW show. I know Matt Riddle won the title, but I didn't watch the show. So I don't know if he appeared on that or not. But yeah, he for a 7-footer, he's definitely, he has bona fides. I mean, to be in the WWE, even if it was under Vince McMahon and he's addicted to people with size, whatever that might say about him. He's got skill for a big guy. And I think in MLW, he's going to flourish because, they kind of play by the old school rules of wrestling. It's very classic WWF. Meets indie wrestling kind of. And I think he'll succeed. He's definitely got a lot of skill. Um, Next question. Super Gas Draws asks, Rumble picks. Do you think CM Punk's favor comes into play? And who do you think will win the Royal Rumble? I'll give it to you, Jordan.
Uh, so are they asking if Punk's gonna win or
I guess both. Oh, not necessarily. I guess they want to know who will win and do we think CM Punk's favor will come into play at the Royal Rumble?
uh I as far as the Rumble winner, uh it's tough to say. It's a really wide field. Um I would say that someone I would like to win would be somebody like LA Knight. Uh I think he would be one I would like to win. I don't know if he will. Uh it's it being Cena's last year. I think he's got a strong case that he could win it. They they kind of really built it up when he cut that promo that he was looking to do that and potentially win that 17th World Championship. Um, but yeah, it's tough to say. I for right now, and I'll obviously see how the field spreads out. Uh, but right now, I'll say John Cena for the time being. My pick will change. I know we'll preview the Royal Rumble, and my pick might have changed by then. But for right now, I'll probably say Cena. Though I would like to see it see somebody like LA Knight be able to win it and really elevate them to that main event status.
I see the vision. The optimist in me would say LA Knight, but the realist in me, the person who, if I had a gun in my head, I would say The Rock will win. Jordan and I played around the idea of him entering at 31 and winning. I'm not going to say that will happen, although I would like to see that happen. But I do think he's going to win. I do think he's going to challenge Cody Rhodes for the title. Um, I do think they're going to finish that story at WrestleMania and have that WrestleMania 18 moment, like with The Rock and Hulk Hogan, where it's a passing of the torch. Um, I don't think CM Punk's favor will come into play yet. I do think it will down the road. And I think it will in relation to Punk's ability to secure a spot at WrestleMania in the main event, because that's Punk's story, is making it to the main event. And that story essentially ends if he wins the Rumble. Like at that point, the suspense is gone. So you want to carry that in my mind. If I were booking, and I'm not getting paid to, so what does that really matter? But if I were Triple H, I would say, well, we're going to take this into Elimination Chamber. This is his last shot. And that's when you have CM Punk exercise that favor from Paul Heyman and Roman Reigns. Um, Next question. This is actually two questions from
And
Mr.
actually,
Mr.
can I cut in real quick?
Oh, yeah, sure,
I
sure.
realized I did not answer the Punk part of that question. Uh, I would also agree that he's not going to use it at the Rumble, and I do think he will use it either at Elimination Chamber or at Mania. And it would be very interesting to see. I think it would make more sense for him to use it at Elimination Chamber. Maybe something like he wants a spot in the match, and he tells Paul Heyman, "Well, I'm going to take Roman's spot in the match," and
Oh,
Roman doesn't get to be in it, and he's been promised this favor, so then it costs Roman something, and that leads to potentially maybe a match between those two. So something like that. But I feel like his favor will uh, interfere in Roman Reigns' plans down the line. I think is how that favor will be used. But to answer the question, I do not think he will use it at the Royal Rumble. Sorry, forgot to answer that part of the question.
thank you. Thank you. I'm sorry I didn't turn it back over to you. I neglected to notice that. Yeah, so two questions from Mr. MK. Once again on Reddit. Is the Bloodline the new NWO with its growing members and factions? Will it ultimately start to drag everything down? Jordan.
I'm say no because I don't think that you're going to have as many different versions of the Bloodline as you did the NWO. Um, I also think that the WWE has a better vision of how they want that whole thing to go, whereas in WCW with the NWO, they didn't really have any idea how to. Uh, Once it started and it was so popular, they didn't really have an idea of how to keep it going and to
Mhm.
have it make sense. So that everybody was just kind of throwing everything against the wall. And also, too, people don't have as much, creative control as they did back then. Uh, so I think that I don't think that it will be as bad as the NWO was later on. And as far as dragging things down, I mean, I don't think it's really dragging anything down. It's kind of been off on its own recently. Um, now that Roman is the tribal chief again, Solo's kind of out of the picture. Jacob Fatu, as we just talked about, is really making a name for himself. I don't think it's going to really be as big of a part of the main story as it has been. Um, Maybe that'll change with The Rock coming back. Who knows? Um, but it's definitely not dragging anything down. I mean, WWE is still as hot as it's been with the bloodline and without it. So no, I don't think it's going to be an NWO situation.
Um, yeah, I wouldn't liken it to the NWO at all. I think it has its core members, and I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. Now, they kind of talked about it, they being the Usos, Sami Zayn, and Roman was absent from that press conference, but that now that they've reformed and Roman has kind of answered for his crimes against all of the individual members. They don't have to actively be a group for them to function. Like they can selectively team up and work together. I think obviously right now there's a story with Drew McIntyre that I think is really fascinating, and he's kind of trying to pick off everyone who helped Roman, um, because he still holds a grudge against him, obviously, for screwing him over at Clash at the Castle. Um,
I wouldn't say that Roman's answered for his crimes. I mean, he's still pretty much acting like an asshole for while he was back. It's just, the crowd's obviously been behind him now. But I mean, that was the thing I've kind of noticed with it, is that he really, like, every time somebody asked him to apologize for what he did before, he never did it. He was still that really arrogant, pompous guy who, didn't feel bad for anything that he did. He never apologized for anything. Uh, so, in that vein, I think, there could be something there. Maybe you could change something and have him, go off and feud with something else. But yeah, that obviously this is a little off topic, but um, I wouldn't say that Roman has atoned for anything. He really hasn't said anything about feeling bad about it, apologizing. He hasn't done any of that. So I think he's still the same guy.
um, hmm, uh, if he had not changed how he felt about the Usos and Sammy, would he have allowed Jay to have this match tonight?
Well, I mean, in that vein, Jay really kind of told him, "Look, you're not in charge of me anymore. Like we're equals. Like we're
Yes.
on the same footing. Like you're not going to tell me what to do." That was kind of the difference. Is like Roman's still the same guy, but everybody else was basically, telling him to step off. Like they're pretty much just standing up to him. I mean, Roman has really no control over anybody. Like he's not gonna, like, maybe, maybe Jimmy or something like that, but he's not gonna go out and tell Sammy what to do, tell Jay what to do. That's the big difference, is that the guys are more willing to tell him, to tell him off basically.
Does that
Now
not
they,
demonstrate an evolution for him?
no, I think it's just an evolution of those guys, of like, look, we're tired of your shit and we're not going to take it, and we'll help you because the new bloodline was, you know, full of nothing but savages. But so we'll come together and we'll help you for the greater good of the company and the greater good of everybody else, to take down this new version of the bloodline. But as far as their relationship with Roman, I don't think Roman has changed. It's just that the people around him are not going to support him and follow him outside of Jimmy. They're
Right.
more willing to tell him, "Look, you're not in charge anymore. You're still Roman Reigns, but you're not going to boss us around."
Okay, fair enough. To answer the second part of this question, will it ultimately start to drag everything down? I can make an argument that it did in the summertime when we're having that Solo and Cody feud, and it just wasn't interesting. I didn't find it interesting. I think it was a waste of a SummerSlam main event, and I know that the rumors were that the idea was it was going to be The Rock and Cody, and that couldn't happen because of The Rock's prior obligations. But um, I didn't enjoy that leg of Cody's reign. I think it was a huge void, a huge black hole that sucked up a lot of time for him. So I could argue that maybe that was the low point of it. But no, I don't think it will drag everything down as long as it's not the gravity with which the WWE revolves around like it was 2 or 3 years ago. If it's a story going on, great, but you can't have it be the center of everything anymore. I just think there's too many people have progressed to a point where there's more things to focus on. Um, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I think, uh, like you said, it's it's not the center. of the WWE universe anymore. There's, multiple different things going on. There's too many really good main eventers to just have that. And it's been nice that it's kind of been off on its own as its own thing. That has not been around. Like Cody's been able to have this thing with Kevin Owens, and Jay's been able to do his own thing, and different people have been able to do different things. Uh, and yeah, it's like I said, it did drag it down a little bit during the summer when Cody just could not get away from the bloodline, and it was really starting to irritate people. Um, but now it's progressed to a point where Jacob Fatu has obviously become the focal point, which people really like Jacob Fatu, and it's really been big for him. Roman's going to be in the Rumble, so there's different elements going on. It's not bloodline centric. It's more of these different guys are kind of going off in different directions and doing different things.
Yeah, I mean, they've kind of become their own subgroup, and that's fine. That's cool. I mean, we know the roots, we know where they came from, we know how they formed. But yeah, I mean, if it's Jacob Fatu and Tama Tonga and Tongaloa as their own faction, that could be really entertaining. Even if they don't have to necessarily even interact with the bloodline. They can do their own things and be autonomous, and I think it would be successful. Clearly, Jacob Fatu, like you said, like we talked about, has really established a good connection with the audience, and a lot of people love him. So, the second series of questions from Mr. MK to end the show will be: will the TNA NXT partnership be good long term? What dream storylines spring to mind? And will this push AEW further out of the main conversation or start to change how Tony runs the company? Let's um let's stick to the TNA NXT partnership, be good long term, and the dream storylines come to mind for you. How do you think this will benefit both companies long term, or if it even will?
I would say I don't think it will have a huge impact on WWE because they're already so big and so hot right now. Other than obviously that it seems like they'll be getting Jordan Grace, which I'm assuming she'll just be signing with them. So it's not, I guess it's not really have anything to do with it, but it seems like it's going to be more NXT superstars going to WWE, which obviously, if that's what they're going to do and they're not going to have the main superstars involved with it, is a pretty big letdown because of obviously the different people who are there. I mean, obviously AJ Styles is there, the Motor City Machine Guns are there, Bobby Roode's there, although he's in a producer role, but he could still do something. So I think that part of it to me would be disappointing. Now for TNA, it's publicity. Anything associated with WWE, they're the biggest wrestling company in the world. So if you can, get any part of that, even if it is NXT, it's a big deal for them. Um, and it's I would assume it'll eventually be a situation where WWE would just probably own TNA outright, just buy them eventually down the line. Uh, but for now, it's a much bigger deal for TNA as far as publicity, as far as potentially getting some NXT superstars over there. Obviously, I think like Cora Jade showed up a couple times.
Mhm.
Maybe you get Obafemi go over there eventually. Trick Williams, um, different people like that. Um, and as far as dream matches or dream feuds, I mean, like I said, that part of it I think is going to be harder because if it doesn't seem like they're going to have the main roster be involved, which is where the dream matches would come from. Uh, you know, with the connections that guys in WWE have with TNA and vice versa. So I don't know if as far as any dream matches. I mean, I think anybody big from NXT going to TNA would be great for them. Um, but like outside of AJ going back or the Machine Guns going back, as far as dream matches, I can't really think of any right off the top of my head.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the first part of that question, will the partnership be good long term? For the talent involved, yes, because if you're a TNA wrestler and you're going on NXT, you're immediately being exposed to more people. So on that end, that's good. For the NXT talent, quite frankly, a lot of these people don't have backgrounds in professional wrestling. They kind of were on this NIL track where they were college athletes and they've gone over, or they had prior backgrounds in professional sports or amateur sports. And so to work with some people in TNA who are seasoned veterans who have been around the block is helpful. I think it creates interesting matchups, learning experiences for some of these guys, because TNA does have a handful of really talented performers right now. In terms of the business for both, obviously, like you said, to NXT's point, it's not going to affect their business at all. It's not going to affect their bottom line. Maybe it gives some people, some fans, some new wrestlers to watch every Tuesday night. Maybe. For TNA, I don't really see how this will be beneficial just from the standpoint that as of now, it has not reflected in the ratings that it's improved anything for them. They're still on a end of the road, dead end cable network access television where they're not going to have much of a chance to grow. Um, and while they have done a lot of good over the last few years to repair the brand and bring fans back and have this resurgence they've had, I think a lot of that had to do with Scott D'Amore and how much work he put in for years to help turn that product around and build up stars and have fans um, have wrestlers that the fans could gravitate towards. And I think that had a lot to do with him. And right now, you're seeing people like Tessa Blanchard come back, who the fans don't want to see, and she's being put in high profile situations. She's probably going to eventually be the Knockouts champion there. Um, Josh Alexander seems like he's on his way out, probably going to WWE. Jordan Grace already gone. She's en route to WWE. So, I mean, how long does it take for WWE to just acquire their talent? Because clearly they can pay them more. So I don't know in terms of that if it's going to be good long term for TNA. You know, it's funny to me. Like if I remember 3 years ago, probably I was telling you that I really thought AEW was going to buy TNA. I really, really thought that was going to happen. I mean, they had a partnership. A lot of the talent seemed really happy working with AEW. Kenny Omega was the champion. Christian Cage became the champion. Christian dropped it to a TNA talent. I think Moose. I really thought it was going to be that AEW was going to buy it. Now it looks like WWE is going to eventually acquire it, right? I mean, Dave Meltzer's reported that that's their goal, which I don't know if that means a lot, but and it's very possible. I mean, they could give Anthem Sports an offer that they couldn't refuse, quite frankly, and acquire that back catalog and the roster and and probably do a lot with it. But yeah, dream storylines, like you said, I mean, I'd like to see AJ Styles go over and work with some guys. I'd like to see, I mean, I Gail Kim returning to WWE would be really cool. The Motor City Machine Guns working, here and there would be cool. But we've said it before, we don't watch NXT. Let's be honest. Well, we don't watch that shit. So, like, do I care if Obafemi wrestles? I don't know, like Alexander Hammerstone again, or if he wrestles Moose. I don't give a fuck. I don't really care. So, it'd be good, I guess, for them, but like I don't care. It's nothing like that. What I would like to see is some top guys go back and forth. LA Knight go to TNA, or somebody challenge LA Knight that used to be a rival of his, like a Moose, or you know, that's what I'd like to see. I'd like to see Josh Alexander and Ethan Page reunite as a tag team. But unfortunately, I don't think that's going to come. I don't think Josh Alexander's going to be a TNA talent when that happens. I think he's going to be with WWE. So, any other thoughts before we move on to the last part of this question?
No, I think it's like we said. I think long term, it's not going to be any big significance unless WWE has some of their main guys go over there and do something with it. It's not going to affect WWE at all, really. It's not going to bring anything new to them. They're already doing well. As far as TNA goes, maybe it'll give us more publicity having some NXT stars go over there. But for the most part, outside of big names going there, it's not going to matter much.
Um, so will this push AEW further out of the conversation or start to change how Tony runs the company? Um, AEW is the only thing that will continue to push AEW further out of the conversation. And I say that because they seem to be their own worst enemy in a lot of ways. Tony Khan seems to be his own worst enemy in a lot of ways. Not just now he runs his company, but his I guess it really is kind of how he runs his company, but his inclinations for wrestling, his his bloated roster, a lot of it. I mean, I don't really want to get into that right now, but no, I don't think this partnership is going to push AW further out of the conversation because I don't think it's going to put TNA in the conversation. I mean, yeah, some of their wrestlers are on NXT. So what? Like, it's not going to affect their. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think it's going to affect their business so dramatically that they're going to start putting 10,000 people in an arena or 8,000 people in an arena. I don't think it's going to give them a new TV deal because there's just not enough TV space out there for wrestling companies. It's not advertiser friendly. There's already two big players in the game. We've never seen three guys. We've never seen three teams, three companies have television deals on major networks. It's never happened. ECW couldn't even do it. I don't think TNA is going to be able to right now. Um, so no, I don't think that's the case. Um, do I think it might affect how Tony Khan um, manages these kind of interpromotional um, vet? What am I trying to say? These interpromotional deals? No, because I think he's kind of wrote the book on that. I mean, his relationship with New Japan was really groundbreaking. I don't think he's gonna change how he looks at this just because WWE is doing it a different way.
Yeah, I mean it's to answer the question, no. Like you said, it's this deal's not going to really change anything majorly from how things are right now. Um, AEW, we could obviously get into a whole conversation about what's wrong with AEW right now. Um, but in this particular framing of it, no, it's going to be the decisions that Tony Khan makes and the different storylines that he puts together and, the people he pushes and the people he doesn't push. What drives AEW to either succeed or fail is going to be on Tony Khan, and he's not going to change the way he's been doing things because I mean, look at all that's happened. I mean, the ratings now uh, are not anywhere near what they once were. They obviously just got a big TV deal, so to me that would just reinforce what he's been doing because he got a big TV deal and they're on Max now. Um, so no, this deal between WWE and TNA, it's not going to majorly change anything. It's not going to change AEW's business. It's not going to change how Tony Khan books things. It's not going to affect how TNA is run or what their ratings are. And it's not going to do anything with WWE. So to me, it's pretty inconsequential. Like it's a big deal because of the two names, because but no longer they're no longer that. TNA is not anywhere near that level. So yeah, it's not going to affect things one way or the other.
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that's going to affect how Tony Khan runs a company or if he is even running the company is if his father said that we're not making any money and something has to change. That's the only reason I can see it happening. And currently, I mean, every report would indicate that they're finally profiting because of their television deal. Now, if that's really the case or not, we don't know because private company, but I mean, unless his father said, "Listen, we need to make a change. Someone else needs to be in charge of this because it's not going well." I don't think anything's going to change. Um, and I don't really want to turn this into an AW's doomed thing because I don't necessarily agree with that. I just think that they're not growing, so I guess that's not great. But I don't think TNA is going to have anything to do with that or affect their business because they're teaming up with WWE. TNA is not going to get to a point where they're the second biggest company in America ever again. Uh, Even before AEW came around, I would argue that they weren't the second biggest company in America. I would say Ring of Honor at that time was bigger. Um, so yeah, I don't think anything's going to change in that regard. Um, but it's cool, it's special, and if you're a TNA fan, I'm sure this is a big deal. Um, Now, that being said, I could easily watch TNA. It's not like I'm a lapsed wrestling fan. I just choose not to because the product's not that great, and there's already a lot of wrestling going on. And just because they're teaming up with NXT is not going to make me watch TNA every week. In fact, it's not even going to make me watch NXT every week. So I don't really know what that says, but it's cool nonetheless. Jordan, is there anything else you'd like to add to Saturday night's main event, to the questions we were asked before we sign off today?
Uh, no, I think we pretty much covered everything major that happened. Saturday's main event was good. Um, very happy with the questions that we got. There's definitely a nice little spin on things. Get some different perspectives on what's at the top of people's minds in in the wrestling fan world. So yeah, it was good.
Yeah, we are mere minutes from midnight, so I think it's time we wrap this up. We take it home, as they say in the wrestling business. Thank you for your questions on Reddit. And please, if you have anything else you'd like us to answer next week, we'd be happy to. Leave us a comment on this video. Uh, Let us know what you'd like us to answer. Um, and once again, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Twitter, Blue Sky. All of the links to the literature I write are in the description box below if you're interested in what I do outside of this podcast. I cover AEW for the Augusta Free Press. I write lists for the Sportster. Um, I am knee deep in wrestling, and I'd love for you to check that out as well. Once again, thank you all for watching. Talk to him, Jordan.
Top dogs out.